Pablo Gunner, a key for another episode of TNTM The Show lore. Here to tell you about how TNTM The Show came to be, the backstory about me and TNTM The Show. Last we picked up, Slay J had betrayed my family and I by stealing a credit card from my dad while he was staying there and had maxed it out. They had his stuff. I think they like sold his stuff. Oh yeah, I also remember he stole my wife's Inuyasha CDs or DVDs and gave them to his ex-girlfriend. That was a thing too. That's something we found out later. So my wife and I, we moved out to Oklahoma for a few years. We at first stayed with her aunt and uncle, which are twice our age. And if you know anything about living with adults who are set in their ways, it's very difficult. And we were newlyweds. So it was a very strange place for us to venture. We had never done anything like this before. But we moved out there. We found work. We worked at Bar S. I was like, we were driving like 2 hours away for work. And so I don't remember how or why, but I ended up back in contact with Slay J. And he was convincing me that he could get me a job where he worked making way more money with way better benefits, which was call centers. I don't remember which call center, but he was like, yeah, I'll hook you up. I was like, all right, dude. Yeah, this sucks. So I'm totally for it. So that was the plan. Well, my wife's aunt and uncle did not like me talking to him and didn't like the idea of me even thinking about doing this, which was moving back and getting this job. They were like, you got 24 hours to get out. I called my family, nothing. I called AJ. He came and got me. It's like an 8-hour drive. He had this cube. I think that was the kind of vehicle that he had or something like that. Scion, I don't know. It was square. He drove all the way out there. It's hard not to forgive someone for screwing you and your family over when they totally save your ass from a different people screwing you over. So I left with him. He picked me up in the morning. I was out there on the curb with my stuff, left, thrown out. We went back to New Mexico. I stayed with him for at least like a month. We lived together, and it was honestly one of the greatest times of my life in the sense that like having a roommate, he was the best roommate I ever had. Like we would, like dishes and laundry and groceries, like it was like what I imagine it would be like being married to a guy. Cause it's like we would take turns cooking and like we would go out grocery shopping together and laundry was always done and dishes were always done. And it was like, and we would take turns and we would hang out and we would watch Scrubs and we would play Gears of War and we would play Rock Band and Guitar Hero and all this stuff. And we would go play basketball and with his other buddies, and he had other buddies, and so we would do like Rock Band Guitar Hero parties and or just like stuff like that, and it really was a blast. I kind of got lost in it and was like, oh, I'm here to get a job to make more money and then move all my stuff back out to Oklahoma. Like that's my focus. So at a certain point I had to be like, you know what, dude, I'm going to go stay with my parents and so that I can refocus and really, you know, get my priorities in order. And that's it, cuz they were screwed because I was staying with him, and we still kept in contact. We were still friends and stuff like that. I know it was awkward between me and my family because it was like, yeah, I've been staying with AJ. He's the one that went to go get me. Nobody else would. I got a job, and it wasn't that job. That's the thing, is he did not hook me up with that job. He did not get me that job. He did not get me a call center job. I ended up getting a different job. In fact, I worked for Presbyterian ER as the custodian. I cleaned the rooms and, mopped, cleaned everything, all of it. It was a really shitty job. I mean, it was not that hard. You're just a janitor, so it was mindless. But it's a dirty, filthy, gross job. So earned enough money, moved all my stuff back out to Oklahoma, and then lived out in Oklahoma, like I said, for a few years with my wife. And that was nice. That was interesting. But I played a lot of video games. I would listen to a lot of podcasts, and that inspired me. I was like, I played so many video games. I felt so knowledgeable, and I got back into comics, and I was buying comics again, and I was going to comic book shops, and I was into all the nerdy stuff all over again, the shows, the movies, and I was like, I really want to do a podcast. I just didn't have like the resources and everything like that. I had the time, not the resources. I'll tell you in the next episode of TNTM The Show lore. Check out the merch, TNTM The Store. Stay nerdy.